never fun for anyone. Yeah. And now I'm caught in the crossfire, walking a live wire, aiming and shooting me down, 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 caught in the crossfire.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to the Positive Perception YouTube channel for what is sure to be the finale to end all finales. This is Donington Park GP circuit, as you can probably tell by the rather appropriately placed website on the screen behind you. This is the final round of the Tanso Racing Group GR86 Sunday League rounds 11 and 12 to culminate with some beautiful racing here in the sunny countryside of Leicestershire, right outside of, I think it's Leicester Airport, but it's not Leicester, is it East Midlands Airport? I don't know. Anyway, rambling on for no reason at all. Donington Park is the journey for this one. Rounds 11 and 12, as I said before, the final couple here on the Positive Perception YouTube channel for the Tanso Racing Group GR86 League. My name is David Russell. I'm delighted to be joined as ever by my co-commentator and broadcaster this evening, Ash Cookman. Ash, good evening to you, sir. It's the final one, unfortunately, which is always a bit of a shame, but it does mean that we get two more races of, well, thrills and spills, and much more beyond that as well. It's a shame, isn't it? But looking forward to this one to round things off in the right way.
Hi David, yeah, I actually think we have a slight technical issue with your mic at the moment, so I don't think anybody heard any of that, unfortunately. I didn't hear any of your rambling, so I'm just going to try and sort that out. Hey everybody, if you missed what David said, we are here at Donington. This is the final round of the Tanso GR86 League. Unfortunately, yeah, I say this is the final round, so we hopefully got some good racing. So I'm just trying to sort David's mic out. Just bear with us 2 seconds.
That's weird. Have you tried changing the properties and going back to the changing it back up in there? How weird. Good evening, guys. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Hopefully, you can hear us now. I'm assuming that you can, and that my rambles will be listened to by all of you watching. Thank you to those of you who have tuned in for this evening. As I tried to mention a few times, and as Ash has mentioned a couple of times as well, this is the finale of the Tanso Racing Group GR86 League. It's a bit of a shame to come to an end, but like I say, all good things do have to end at some point, unfortunately. As we mentioned already, we're at the Donington Park GP circuit in the sunny countryside of Leicestershire for this finale. It's rounds 11 and 12, exclusively hosted, as we mentioned before, by ourselves here at Positive Perception. Ash, hopefully you're going to tell me that everyone can hear me now, and I've not just rambled for any particular point. But as we've said before, yeah, it brings it to an end. But still, 30 odd drivers in the server for this one. It's going to be one of those again, isn't it? Where we're just going to get a good ending, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. So you're all loud and clear, mate. So everybody can hear your random rambling for the duration of the race. But yes, this is like you say, it's the final round. I say it's a shame that we're at the final round of the series. It's been a good 12 rounds. Well, 10 rounds so far, 11, 12 tonight. So after tonight will be 12 rounds. But yeah, it's been a good few weeks, and we've had some good racing and some good stuff to commentate on. So hopefully we get the same again tonight.
Absolutely, yeah. If we can, I'm sure if we get one thing, we know we're going to get lots and lots of action. I'm sure we can all agree. For those of you who've caught every single race so far, you'll know that there's going to be a plenty of action so far this evening. Now, we'll have a quick look through the standings before we jump into things. The guys are just heading out, as you can probably see in the background, out on their quali laps at the moment. So we will head over to the grid once that's ready to go. But let's talk through the pro standings first and foremost. In fact, I believe that's the AM standings. But let's go with the AM standings anyway. So James Bostock leads the way. He's got an 11-point swing ahead of Marcus Richardson ahead of this evening's running. Of course, with 2 races to round things off, does mean that we have got plenty of opportunity for this to change. And realistically, you would argue that possibly the top 3 at a minimum have an opportunity of winning at the championship tonight. But of course, we'll find out when the results are published, most likely tomorrow morning. Marcus Richardson, as I said, is 11 points behind with James Howells, just over the 300 mark on 304 points in total. Jack Wyborn and Mark Proctor are separated by 14 points in 4th and 5th with James Pallow, and Stephen Parker Hamilton both 2, 5 and 7 points back respectively. A slightly large gap back to Joe Willoughby and Philip McConaughey, both separated by 0 points, sharing 233 as it stands. And then Mark Robinson rounds out the top 10 on the AM side. And in terms of the pro standings, I'll look at them as well. Championship very much done and dusted for Harry Fox there. You can see to the tune of 99 points. I'm sure he'll be hoping to round us off with the perfect way possible and see if he can extend that lead if he can. Aaron Kirby, Positive Perception's very own, is sitting in 2nd place. But that battle for 2nd place is really, really close. Anyone arguably through from till 6th, you would think, although Neil Rocks will need a bit of a swing to do it, can potentially come out of 2nd place in the championship after this evening's eventualities. But Alex Fretwell is 2 points behind Aaron with 284. Dan Wareham a further 3 points back with 281. And then Mark Brown and Neil Rocks a further 8 and 27, 17, something like that behind. I'm not very good at maths. Mental arithmetic are not my strong point. Chris Round and Marcus Law separated by 1 point in 7th and 8th. Then Scott Kostrick and Ryan Dudley rounding out the top 10 on that side. So it does mean, Ash, that we know the pro standings. Obviously, the pro pro championship done and dusted. Harry Fox has got both his hands on that trophy. Very much still up for grabs in the AM standings. But I get the impression that that's probably not going to deter these guys, is it really? If we think about it, they're just going to go hell for leather anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think Harry's had an imperious few weeks. I think he won, although we weren't streaming last week. We also won one of the races, I believe, last week. So he's had a fantastic series. He's pretty much dominated majority of the rounds. Looking at the timing screen, it looks like he's going to be on pole again tonight. So he's got some decent pace. He's actually he's got about half a second over the field in qualifying. So it looks like he'll be the one to watch again tonight.
Very much up there on the sharp end, isn't he? As he always is is young Harry. I'm assuming he's young anyway. Let's just say he is anyway, because it's probably the nice way to do it. Now, unfortunately, we won't be broadcasting season 3. We've had to make a different decision not to broadcast it. Unfortunately, there's just too much going on in our respective schedule to commit to this, which is very sad. But I know that there'll be someone stepping in to look after that, which I'm sure will be brilliant no matter what. But we'll quickly talk you through the rounds for that one. So it's Alton Park to kick things off on the 14th of May for rounds 1 and 2 there. They head off to Virginia International Raceway for rounds 3 and 4. A week after that, a week following is Brands Hatch GP. Mount Panorama is rounds 7 and 8. Donington Park GP for rounds 9 and 10. Okayama for rounds 11 and 12 for the penultimate round of the season. And Silverstone Legacy is the final one. Loads of stuff to look forward to. I mean, like I say, it's a shame that we're not going to be able to do that. Like I say, we've got so much going on, but it will be interesting to look at it from an outsider perspective, I suppose, won't it? And seeing whether what we see is what everyone else sees as well. Because I feel like maybe we're a little bit biased sometimes. We expect greatness in terms of the action. I think we normally get delivered on it, to be fair, but be interesting to see it from another angle.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have a couple of positive perception guys racing in next season as well. So I'm sure we'll be getting updates from them throughout the season. But yeah, it'll be nice to see it from the outside, where we can sort of actually look at what's been going on, and without having to go through the sort of things we have to go through to get ready for the broadcasting. Some things we don't get time to look at, so it'd be nice to have the time to look at all the other stuff that goes on, and basically be able to enjoy it a bit more.
Absolutely, yeah. Enjoy's a very good word of it. It's not that we don't enjoy doing it like this. I love doing this kind of thing, which is obviously why we do it at the end of the day, isn't it? Essentially, but it will be nice to watch it back. I don't know about you, Ash, but I don't watch any single broadcast I do back because I just can't listen to my voice on record again. I'm sure there's people watching now thinking, Christ, yeah, I'm thinking about that while I'm listening to him live, but I can't watch it back. It's just, it really gets on my gears. I can't listen to myself back on a stream.
No, I'm exactly the same. If I watch something back, I watch it on mute.
Good evening in the chat to Digital Armchair Motorsports LLC. Evening, guys. Good evening to you, good sir. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend and bringing it off in the right way possible. I believe I'm looking at the timing screen, as you can see lots of names lighting up on here. I assume that means that we are about to get ready for the formation lap. And yes, we are going to have a look through the grid for the first round of this evening. Of course, first round is as set by qualifying, second round set via the reverse grid for the top 12. So it's Harry Fox who leads the way, as we've mentioned, off pole position. He's got Aaron Kirby, second in command in the championship, second in command on the grid as well. Neil Rocks, who I believe is sixth in the championship, he sits in P3 on the grid with Tom Wilson alongside him in the 146 car. Marcus Richardson is the first of your AM drivers on the grid. A further, he's 1.2 seconds off the lead in this one, with James Bostock, another AM driver, sat alongside him on the front row, of course, AM Championship leader as it stands. Down Wareham, Richard Flutier on the fourth row of the grid, with Alex Fretwell and James Howells rounding out the top 10, and then Joe Willoughby and David Smith are 11th and 12th, so rounding out the sixth row of the grid. As we talk through, we can see chats coming in from James Buchanan, Harry Fox in the chat as well. Harry supporting himself, which I quite like. I do like the confidence that we're seeing there as well. As we go further down the grid, we can see we've got Mark Proctor and Jack Wyborn 13th and 14th, with then James Baxter and Philip McConaughey on the 7th row of the grid. And then we've got Joe Glass and Sean Clark in 17th and 18th, and Scott Kostrick and Adrian Hadfield rounding out the top 20 for this one. We've got then Shane Cotton and Hussein Sarakadesla in 21st and 22nd, Stuart Briley and Stanley Jr. on the 12th row of the grid. And then as we round out the final positions on there, we've got Steve Derrick and Stephen Parker Hamilton in 25th and 26th, Andy West and James Pallow 27th and 28th, and then Gary Linton and JT Johnston, John Johnston, Tanso admin sitting at the back of the grid. So we see short formation up. It looks like we can see the guys just heading through the Melbourne Loop configuration of the circuit as it stands. In fact, are we going through it? Yeah, we are. That's definitely the Melbourne Loop. I was about to say, I've seen the lights go up, Ash, on the gantry. I'm thinking, that seems like they've come up really early. But Harry Fox going to lead us around there. He's going to take us to Gollards for this for this first race of the evening. Very, very much looking forward to this one. Again, if you want to look at the live timing, hit the pinned message in the chat. You can have a look at that one as well. And let's see who's going to take the first race of the evening. Will it be Harry Fox? Will it be Aaron Kirby? Will it be any one of the other 28 drivers on the grid as we come through Goddard's for that final time under the formation app for the first race of the evening? And we're underway here, it looks like, at Donington Park GP for the first race of the evening. Harry Fox gets an imperious start, as we've come to know and understand from this man up until this point. Neil Rock's going to look up the inside. Is he going to try and make the double overtake going into Redgate for the first time? It looks like they're going to try and go side by side. Aaron Kirby's going to hold it round the outside. Does a fantastic job of doing so. Tom Wilson keeps himself in fourth place as Marcus Richardson, James Bostock are down where holding position down through the seventh as well. Alex Fretwell has made up a position. Philip McConaughey making a fantastic start, 7 positions off the start of this one. He is the start of a little bit of a gap forming between the front guys and himself down in 9th position. And looking further down, it's big losers are the likes of David Smith, James Howes and Joe Willoughby losing 16, 19 and 19 positions accordingly. But as we said, Ash, I mean, that's the start that Harry Fox would have wanted. You see a car going off to the infield there. It's the start he wanted, it's the start he got. And it feels to me like we might be experiencing another imperious evening from the number 164 card tonight.
Yeah, definitely. He got the perfect start. He's got 0.7 of a lead at the front already, with Aaron trying to chase him down, trying to hold the cars behind him up. But yeah, that's a fantastic start for Harry. It's exactly what he'll want. He'll probably want to try and check out as soon as possible now.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's certainly going to be trying to do that. As you can see, he's already got a gap of 7 and a bit tenths of a second, ebbing and flowing as they go through into the Melbourne Loop section, the GP part of this track, of course. And there is James Baxter in the 103 car. He's going to try and make a move around the outside of Scott Kostrick into the Melbourne Loop. He is not going to make that happen. I'm not surprised whatsoever. And he had to be very careful that Joe Glass wasn't going to try and look up the inside there. Manages to hold on to P14. At the moment, Stephen Parker Hamilton under a bit of pressure. He has got everyone, it seems like, behind him. Andy West, James Pallow and Stanley Jr., to name a few. As you see, Stephen just going into Goddard's there, manages to get in ahead of everyone onto the apex and manages to get through there nice and cleanly, which is what we like to see. I think it's Stephen Derrick in that little battle there as well. He is the man directly behind as we finish the first lap. It is Harry Fox only by 0.2 of a second, though. That gap has tumbled since the first couple of corners. You can see there, that was, I think it's Tom Wilson going at the inside of Neil Rocks into the old hairpin as well. So he's got himself up into P3 onto the podium as it stands, as Harry Fox continues to lead this race, Ash. But Aaron Kirby, he's looking like he's going to be putting Harry under a little bit more pressure than we expected, at least based on the first lap or so of this run.
Yeah, Harry will definitely be wanting to do exactly what it says underneath his spoiler there, and don't panic. Yeah, he'll see Harry all in his mirrors. I don't know whether he made a little mistake somewhere, but Harry does also seem to have made a bit of a gap on the cars behind. So I don't know whether that's because they're battling or not, which is looking to get a bit fruity going into the old Foggy's S's there.
Absolutely, yeah. You can see there, I think, yeah, so Neil Rocks has just got back up into 3rd place. He's managed to get the move done on Tom Wilson, but Tom Wilson's going to look to the inside into the Melbourne Loop. He's got enough of a car alongside him, you would think, to get that move done. He's got teammate Dan Wareham a little bit further down the order. He's in P6 at the moment, so you see he's just 2 cars behind. Marcus Richardson leading in the AM class in between those. He's managed to get the jump on James Bostock off the first couple of laps. James dropped down into 8th place, so he's dropped a couple off the first couple of laps, and there is Tom Wilson gets the move done. Neil Rocks is going to try and look up the inside into Goddard's. He's not going to make it, though. He's not alongside, really, so that's not going to be doing at the moment. Philip McConaughey through Goddard's goes a little bit deep. Oh, and Richard Flutie nearly catches the back rear of that car there. Luckily, no coming together between those two, as Richie JM says lots of luck to James Bostock. He's going to need it, Richie, because he's dropped a couple of positions off the start, and one of those people who's just about to try and get past him, you would think, and try and close that gap first and foremost, is the man on your screen. Philip McConaughey currently sitting in P9 and gained 7 positions off the start. One of, if not the big winners off the start there, including the likes of Scott Kostrick, who's gained 8 positions as well.
Yeah, definitely. He's made a great start there, has Philip. Like you said, made 7 positions off the start. So he's currently in 9th position. He's got a bit of pressure behind from Richard Flutie, who lost 2 positions off the start. So I'd expect he'd want to try and get past as soon as possible so he can start to chase James down in front.
100%. You can see the gap at the top of the timing board just starting to edge out again to the former Harry Fox. He's got about a second and a half nearly in hand to Aaron Kirby behind. You can see Tom Wilson just in the foreground of that picture going into the Foggies S's, very much under pressure. But these two are going to the side by side. Are they going to make it through? How on earth have they managed to do that? That is incredible sportsmanship from the two and fantastic work from Richard Flutie to get that move done. It's not the easiest thing, Ash, to get a move done through the Foggies S's, but he has done that with absolute ease and made it look really good at the same time. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's not an easy corner to pass on. You sort of come into the S's and you narrow that first corner off, and it destroys your exit through the second of the chicane. So he did a really good job there to get it past. He actually got past reasonably early, so it probably didn't affect him too much on the exit, especially in these cars as well. If he was sort of doing GT3 or something like that, it might have affected his exit a bit more, but not so much in these.
Yeah, absolutely. These cars are the ones where you can maybe just use a little bit of door banging here and there, and they're not as wide as, like you say, the likes of a GT3 car. So you've got the opportunity to be a little bit more flexible with your moves and things like that. Looking at the timings on the last lap, we can see Harry Fox at a 1:44.5, just nearly a second quicker than Aaron Kirby behind him. The only person who's near him on pace at the moment is Tom Wilson. He's still 2.5 tenths behind. As we go down at the old hairpin, Sean Clark pressurising Stephen Parker Hamilton, and Stephen Derrick is not too far behind these guys as well. As I can see, an off-track littered for Gary Linton as he drops a position there to James Howells just in behind. But Stephen holding his own at the moment. He's gained 7 positions off the start, so good start from him. There's a bit of contact up ahead. Who is that up there? That is Scott Kostrick, who's been caught up in that. James Baxter as well, by the looks of it. It looked to me there, like it was almost looked like Scott. I thought it was the other way around, but it looks like Scott had almost got hooked up on James's back rear third there and was almost pushing him sideways between the gap between McLean's and Coppice. It was a very strange incident, it looked like.
Yeah, the cars just sort of getting stuck together there. It was a bit of a weird one, but it looks like now they've managed to sort out that and get going again.
It's what we like to see, at least. Happy to know that these guys are getting on with it and not having any major issues. Regardless, there is Aaron Kirby in second place. As it stands, he is 2 seconds back from Harry Fox at the moment, whose pace continues to be incredibly strong. 1:44.6 on that lap. That's Dan Wareham going a little bit wide. You saw just going through Redgate there. You see it's actually still on the grass, as I mentioned that. So not the way he'll be wanting to go through that first corner, but still within the second of Neil Rocks, who's still within a second of Tom Wilson within there as well. Here is your AM Class second place driver. I was about to say AM Class leader, but I corrected myself before I made the mistake. It's James Bostock there going up through Schwanz-Kerb and up towards McLean's. He is 2 seconds back off of his AM driver competition at the moment, Marcus Richardson, who sits very much at the front of the row in that one, and he's pressurising Alex Fretwell ahead of him as well. And then back further down the order, we've got Philip McConaughey, who's dropping back a little bit, you would argue, Ash, from James Bostock ahead. Importantly, though, he has managed to get that move back down on Richard Flutie, so he's managed to get himself back up into 9th. This is not going to be doing them any favours, though, is it? Because it's ultimately just going to drag that gap further and further out between the guys ahead.
Yeah, definitely. He's managed to get past somewhere. I didn't quite catch it on cameras, but no, he's managed to get past. So Richard will again be trying to get past, back past, so he can chase James down. But at the moment, it looks like Philip has just managed to edge out a very small gap in front of Richard. So Richard will have to do some work, catch up, back up, so he can make a pass.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to take a little bit of a move and a very deep one from that to get that move done as it stands. So he'll need to try and work his little bit of magic there, see if he can get that one done. Sean Clark has made a load of positions up, actually. I feel like he was behind Stephen Parker Hamilton a moment ago, but Stephen Parker Hamilton has lost a couple of positions, it looks like. So maybe a little bit of a coming together between them. Not something that I managed to keep an eye on, but then again, when you've got 30 drivers as close as a lot of these are, it's very difficult to keep an eye on them. You can see Mark Proctor pressurising Jack Wyborn just ahead of them as well. And Hussein Sarah Kadesla putting the pressure onto Sean Clark, the man who just looking at there. Gary Linton, you can see very much under pressure from Stephen Parker Hamilton, who himself is under pressure from Scott Kostrick, who himself is under pressure from John Johnston. This is what we like to see here on the Positive Perception YouTube channel, especially when we're hosting the Tanso Racing Group races, because Ash, this is exactly what happens. You struggle to keep an eye on everything because you've got to try and see what's going on. As we see Gary Linton going a little bit wide. He's gone a little bit wide there. There's Go Faster Flames on the side of his car, not doing the business as it stands. Loses a little bit of time, loses the back end importantly as he came out of the old hairpin. He's lost 2 positions as a result. I was just about to say that we're struggling to keep an eye on it, but you've kept an eye on that very well, my friend. And unfortunately, a little bit of an issue for one of them. Oh, a little bit coming together as well. I'm going to try and hand to you in a minute so you can have a chance to have a chat with us. But in the meantime, there's Mark Proctor trying to get up the inside down the back straight on on Jack Wyborn. My apologies. Doesn't manage to get it, and almost there. Ash had that awful incident you've seen time and time again where they get caught alongside each other in the front car, spears off into the wall. Luckily, that didn't happen though.
No, it was it wasn't far off though. It was very close. Yeah, you tend to get front of cars to rear of cars, especially in these cars. There's no weight at the rear because obviously the engine's in the front. It's not. It doesn't take much to spin these cars around with a tap on the rear quarter.
100%. Luckily, though, like you say, didn't happen, and that's the main thing. So they can carry on as they were, of course, battle for an AM-class podium between these two as it stands. So very much a lot up for grabs between those two. At the top of the order, you can see Neil Rocks at the moment sitting in P5, the man on your screen at the moment. He's got Dan Wareham and Tom Wilson ahead of him. So that's Dan Wareham making up a couple of positions up to follow his teammate through towards the top 3 potentially. It might be a battle for a podium, or it might be the fact that Dan maybe just starts to use a little bit of team orders potentially because he's got a championship podium position that he's maybe potentially looking towards. Marcus Richardson still leading the way in the AM category. He's got Alex Fretwell for company right in behind him. He has made the move on Alex, it is worth mentioning, so he is ahead of him on track despite losing a position off the start, but it looks like Alex is just about to get alongside as they go into the Foggy S's. Goes at the inside. It's going to be very much similar as what Flutie did to McConaughey a little bit. Did to McConaughey a little earlier, and he makes it work. Alex Fretwell gets the position done. James Bostock's going to try and use that momentum to get along the outside into the Melbourne loop. Breaks very late. Is he going to have outbraked himself? Is Richardson? He's not. Really, really good defensive work from the number 44 car there. Did exactly what he needed to, Ash. It was one of those. It looked like because James Bostock braked so late, so much earlier, sorry. It looked like Marcus had just naturally outbraked himself, but did a fantastic job to hit both apexes on that hairpin.
Yeah, definitely. So I think James is just trying to get a bit of a cutback, but Alex made the apex perfectly, so he got his braking point perfectly. I think James probably would have been hoping that he'd run a bit wide so he could cut back on inside and get underneath him, but that wasn't to be.
Absolutely, yeah. Pinpoint defending from Marcus Richardson there to hold on to the lead in the AM class and ultimately put a little bit of pressure on James going into the final round for that AM class championship, because that is very much all up for grabs at the moment. Of course, James Bostock leading the way for that one, but Marcus Richardson still well within a shout. Back up to the fight for the final podium position. This is Tom Wilson under pressure from his teammate Dan Wareham. This is what I was talking about, whether we will see Tom just drift out of the way to make this easy. It doesn't look like he will at the moment because we've got plenty of opportunities around this track to make that easier said than done. But at the moment, holding firm the 146 car, keeping the 173 at bay. Both of them making moves to get themselves up the field. Tom Wilson gaining 1 position off his 4th place grid spot. Dan Wareham gaining 3 off his starting from 7th on the grid. Of course, with 6 or just over 6 minutes to go, Ash, of course, for some people, you might be thinking that the focus changes to the reverse grid pole, which is currently being held by Mark Proctor, of course, top 12 reversed. But Hussein Sarakadesla and Philip McConaughey both looking like they're close according to the timing tower. So it'd be interesting to see how many last second moves we get for that one. Look at this. This is the 3. This is the battle for that reverse grid pole. And there is Sarakadesla. Just goes a little bit deep into the Foggy S's and compromises the exit. That is going to be Andy West, I think. Philip McConaughey, sorry, who gets the move done and gets past him. But Jack Wyborn very much within this as well. So these guys have got to be careful, haven't they? Because look, there's a lot at stake here. The difference between 12th and 13th when you've got that reverse grid is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, being in 12th or 13th is 12 positions. it is literally that. I mean, it's going to give you easy, I don't know what, 6, 7, 8 seconds difference at the start of the second race. So yeah, it'll make a massive difference, especially if these guys are fighting for the same both fighting in the. They look like they're all fighting in the in the AmPrem Championship. So yeah, that'll definitely be in the back of their minds.
Absolutely. It's a double-edged thing, isn't it? It's a balancing act. Do you go for the points in the first race? Do you go for the reverse grid pole and see if you can hold on to it and get even better points in the second one? I think if you're in this position, there's too much to worry about, isn't there? If you're in Mark Proctor's position, you're not thinking, right, I'm going to try and hold on to 12th. You're thinking, right, I'm just going to get 11th because that's going to put me even more in position to not go down to 13th and lose that reverse grid pole or lose the front row of the grid entirely. So it's very important. And with that 7-second gap ahead of them to Joe Glass, that makes it all the more important because there's no real benefit. But there you go. Mark Proctor goes wide as they go through Coppice, the blind apex through there, and he's lost the position. He's down a 15th there. Both Sarakadesla and McConaughey getting through. McConaughey now up into P12. So this is all starting to hot up. Jack Wyborn started to make a bit of a move. Sarakadesla is going to look to the inside into the foggy S's. We've seen this move happen a few times, and he gets it done. Fantastic work from the number 8 car, the GP2 racing machine. He gets that move done, and Mark Proctor's going to try and make the move around the outside of McConaughey as well. It looks like he's going to get it done, and he is. Under braking into the mobile loop, but goes a little bit deep. Going to try and get the cut back as he's trying to get on the power as early as he dare. Is he going to get a good run out of the corner? It looks like he will, but he's not going to have enough. Going into Gollards, wondering if he'll make that little late dive into the final corner. He doesn't, elects to sit in behind for now, and I think, Ash, that's probably a sensible move. Because that is the kind of thing where that sort of thing happens. If you outbrake yourself, it's really frustrating, isn't it? You don't want that red mist to descend and really hamper your chances by just making a silly move the next corner, do you?
No, definitely not. You need to sort of plan your race a little bit. You need to, even if you lose position, you can't sort of unless. I mean, there are some situations where you want to try and force a move back past. If you think the guy behind's drastically quicker and you don't want him to get away, then you might be a bit more slightly aggressive to get past as soon as possible. But sometimes it's better to just sit behind, see where he's slower, see where he's faster, and then plan where the best place is to make the move.
Absolutely, easier said than done, though. I'm sure we'll agree. But yeah, lots to unpack for this one when the race does inevitably end in the next few minutes anyway. Looking further back, Marcus Richardson still holding on to that AM class victory provisionally as it stands, but James Bostock very much within the fray of doing that one. Alex Fretwell's actually dropped both those positions, so he's lost 2 positions. Oh, it looks like Richardson went a little bit deep there into the Melbourne loop and just gave James that opportunity. Didn't manage to capitalise on it, did the GP2 racing driver, and as a result sticks in 7th place. Importantly, James, of course, does have a slight gap at the top of the standing, so he has still got a one hand, you would argue, on that AM Championship trophy, and I believe he is responsible for the trophies that are manufactured as a result of coming in the top 5 in either of these classes. So either way, he's going to get a trophy, and I think if he wanted to put AM Champion on it, even if he didn't get it, I don't think anyone would know.
No.
Look back to... Oh, go on.
No, sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, we look back towards the battle for that elusive reverse grid pot. Well, this is reverse grid second as it stands. Jack Wyborn, is he going to try and he's going to lose the position to Sarakadesla? It looks like as he goes into Redgate, Sarakadesla got a great run coming out to Goddard's and does in fact get that move done. And Philip McConaughey very much on the back of them, as is Mark Proctor. Of course, Mark was the one who went wide at Coppice a few laps ago and is now looking to try and make a move to get himself back up towards the front of the grid for the second race. As it stands, he's got a lot of work to do with, you would argue, probably at least 1, maybe 2 laps left. You can see Harry Fox, according to the timing chart, coming towards the latter half of the lap. So you'd think he's probably got 1 more. These guys have got this lap and 1 more to make any last-ditch moves. Philip McConaughey very much on the back end of Jack Wyborn's GR86. This is the difficulty sometimes Ash you can get with these spec championships. You've got to make the move stick, haven't you? Because you haven't got that potential where you're in a car that might be better on the brakes, might be better through the corners, might be better on the straights. You're in the same machinery. It's a fixed setup series. You can't rest on anything. You have to make the move through your own ability, don't you?
Yeah, definitely shows up the really good drivers. Um, Obviously, with these cars being the same and same setup, etc., it makes passing a little bit more difficult as well. You definitely have to think about where the other drivers are faster, because everybody's going to have a different driving style. Even if the cars are the same, everyone's got different driving styles. Some are better through slow corners, some are better through fast corners, some might be more precise. So you've really got to weigh up where they're faster. Maybe you can pressure. Maybe you know that the other driver buckles sometimes under pressure, so you can put him under pressure and try and force the mistake. But yeah, these are all the things that all of these drivers will be thinking about as they're racing around.
Yeah, it's like a really, really strenuous game of chess at 100 mile an hour into most corners, which is always fun to watch. We can see the time has hit 20 minutes, so we are at the end of this one. This will be the end of this lap. This will be the end of the first race this evening. But Sarka Desler is holding on to that first grid pole at the moment. He did get overtaken by Jack Wyborn into the Melbourne Loop and is getting pressure from behind rather than putting the pressure on ahead of him. Philip McConaughey is almost pushing him through. That's a driver off there. That was Richard Flutie off to the left-hand side. So this completely changes this little battle here at the moment. Mark Proctor had it all to do. He's now got to gain just one position to get that reverse grid pole, as it looks like Harry Fox is probably going to go through and take the win. He's going to take the checkered flag. We'll come back to him in a second. I mean, that was always going to be a bit of a foregone conclusion anyway after he managed to get that gap up to 5 seconds. We're going to keep an eye on this one as they go through Coppice one final time and onto Starkey Straight. At the moment, Jack Wyborn, Hussein Sarakadezer and Philip McConaughey will get the reverse grid at top 3. Mark Proctor, though, is going to have something to say about it. Goes down through Starkey Straight, down towards the Foggy S's. It's single file through there on this final time through there for the first race of the evening. As he go through, look at that. That is going to be McConaughey. He gets a better run than Sarakadezer out of the S's. Is he going to get the move done into the Melbourne Loop? And what's this going to mean for Sarakadezer? He's going to get hung out to dry and potentially lose that first grid pole. He isn't. He keeps it nice and tight to the apex. Mark Proctor's a sitting duck behind there. There's not really much he can do. I think he was hoping to be shooting fish in a barrel, but he's not going to be shooting anything at this point because he's not going to get the move done. And it looks like, as it stands, they're all going to continue as they are. Sarka Desler gets pushed out wide. Is he going to lose the position? He's going to lose the reverse grid pole on the line. He is. Oh, goodness me. 300ths of a second stopped Hussein Sarka Desler from getting reverse grid pole. I apologise, Harry Fox, for us not catching you coming across the line and taking that first race win. But goodness me, Ash, that final couple of corners from those guys fighting for that reverse grid pole was incredible.
Yeah, that was brilliant from the bunch of lads there. Some fantastic racing, some good respect shown as well, which is nice to see. Yeah, really good racing.
Fantastic stuff. We'll run you through the results then. Harry Fox takes the first win of the evening ahead of Alan Kirby with a tune of about 5 seconds in the end. Tom Wilson and Dan Wareham are making it 3 and 4 between those two, and Neil Rocks rounds out the top 5. Marcus Richardson takes the AM victory in the end by 400ths of a second away from James Bostock at the end of that one, and Alex Fretwell comes through for 8th with Joe Glass and Jack Wyborn rounding out your top 10. I've lost all the other results, so I can't tell you the rest of them, but I mean, you saw it 11th through the 13th. That was unbelievable stuff between those guys. Well, hopefully we'll get the reverse grid pole sorted out and squared away in a minute. It looks like it's very much up in the air as it stands, but wow, I mean, there wasn't much going on at the front of that one, Ash, which is never ideal, but sometimes that kind of thing happens. But we were treated right. Welcome back then, guys. Fantastic first race there. Really, really good stuff. We're waiting for the drivers to finish off a little brief warm-up ahead of the second and final race, even final race this season unfortunately. And it feels like, I mean, when you see races like that, Ash, you don't want it to end, do you? You just want it to carry on and on and on. I mean, that last couple of corners between Hussein Sarakadesla, Philip McConaughey, Mark Proctor, and Jack Wyborn. I mean, that is exactly what these kinds of series generate in terms of professionalism, kind of fighting to the last second. And I mean, look, there was what they were separated by what I think it was the best part of 300ths of a second over the line. Like, that's just great stuff. You just can't beat that.
No, it's great when you get to see some really close racing. Um, Obviously we got the excitement of them being separated by a piece of paper, really, over the line there for the race two pole position. As you said, the race two is reverse grid, first to 12th, so I'm sure these guys should be gridding up soon. So we'll get to see who's on pole, and we'll also be able to see whether Harry can pick his way through the field and get back to the front. I'm sure some of the other guys will want to do the same. I know Aaron is fighting for second in the championship, so the race one would have given him a good bunch of points towards securing his second place in the championship, and I'm sure he'll want to try and get through the field as well and pick up another good result in race two.
100%. I mean, I feel like we've talked at every race about Harry Fox trying to carve his way through the grid for the second one. So I'll try not to do too much talking about it for this one. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that grid lines up. Of course, I say it'd be interesting to see how it lines up. I should know how it lines up because it is the top 12 that reverse, but I don't want to fall foul of what I did last time where I did the top 15. I was completely convinced that someone was going to be on pole. I think it might have been Aaron Kirby in the end, and he ended up in P15 anyway, and I was completely flummoxed as to why that had happened. So when they finished, because they were a little warm up between this one, as you can see, I mean, well, warming up, it looks like Harry Fox is having a little bit of a conversation with the Arnco barrier in pit lane, which is not what you'd normally expect. I suppose that's maybe end of school year vibes. You know what I mean? Like when the last race of the season, things just go a little bit weird. But that raises an interesting point, Ash. Of course, this is the last round of the season. This is the last race of the last round of the season coming up in a minute. Do you ever enter that in a different frame of mind because it is the last one? Do you maybe throw a bit more caution to the wind? Or are you simply in a case of you're always kind of as focused as you can be on ultimately just driving the best race possible?
I think it's dependent on a few things actually. I think you've got it depends what you're fighting for in the championship. Obviously, at the end of the day, all these guys have been racing for a championship, so it'll all depend on what position they need, where they are at the moment, what happened in the first race, because the first race will give them a bit of an idea of whether they've got a chance of getting a certain position or whether they've got no chance. So it can swing two ways. You could sort of sit there and go, right, I need to make sure I don't mess up in race two because I need to sort of cement this position that I've got in the championship, or they can sort of sit there and go, well, I can't make or lose any position, so I've got nothing to lose, so I'm just going to go for it.
Absolutely. Lots to take into account. Now, the one extra thing I'm going to add to this is 5 points between finishing first and second in your class, right? So in going into this evening, as we mentioned earlier, Marcus Richardson was 11 points behind James Bostock. That obviously now is 6.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the one we're looking at, and that's really kind of where the main battle is, of course, we've got the other ones in the mix as well. And again, see, I told you I was wrong because they're different positions. We'll come back to the grid in a second, but 5.6, so 6 points. So it's a 2-position swing essentially. Marcus needs to beat James by 2 positions as it stands. He's 1 position behind on the grid. So let's run you through that grid before we kick things off into the final race of the season. Joe Willoughby will sit on pole, so it is the top 15 in the end that have been flipped. So less jeopardy involved for Hussein and Sarah Kadesla, which kind of makes me feel a little bit sad that I put so much effort into that commentary at the end of it for that to happen, but it's fine. I'm over it. Scott Kostrick will be second on the grid. Hussein, Sarah Kadesla, and Mark Proctor on the second row, with Philip McConaughey and Jack Wyborn behind them. Joe Glass and Alex Fretwell make up row 4, with James Bostock and Marcus Richardson, those two fighting for that AM class victory in the championship on the 5th row of the grid, with Neil Rocks and Dan Wareham 11th and 12th. And as we continue down through the grid, Aaron Kirby in 13th with Marcus Richardson. In fact, no, it's not Marcus Richardson alongside him. Tom Wilson, sorry, alongside Aaron Kirby on the 7th row of the grid with Harry Fox and Stephen Parker Hamilton rounding out 15th and 16th. James Howells and Andy West 17th and 18th. Shane Cotton and Stanley Jr. round out your top 20. Richard Flutie and James Pallow 21st and 22nd. Stephen Derrick and Gary Linton are 23rd and 24th. Sorry, 22nd and 23rd. Stuart Brierley and Adrian Hadfield 24th, 25th. James Baxter, Sean Clark, David Smith, John Johnston, and apparently Marcus Richardson round out the grid, but I don't believe that's the case as we're about to get underway for this final race of the season here at the Donington Park GP circuit. And Joe Willoughby gets a fantastic start, and Hussein Sarakadesla is up the inside and he's along the side of Scott Kostrick as they go into Redgate for the first time this evening. And it looks like Joe Willoughby has got the exact start that he would have wanted. Scott Kostrick manages to hold on to third place. He did lose that position at the start to Sarakadesla, who gets himself up into second, but Kostrick manages to hold on to third. Philip McConaughey, Jack Wyborn, Mark Proctor, Alex Fretwell, Joe Glass, Neil Roxon, James Bostock are rounding out the top 10. Now, I am looking, Ash, at the timing board in my on my other screen. Marcus Richardson is last. So that is a massive blow for him in terms of the championship, because that puts him completely out of the race for the championship at this moment in time.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what happened to Marcus Richardson. I noticed when they were gridding up, it was, oh, someone's off. There's big accidents in midfield. Absolute pile up.
Carnage between these guys. I can't even keep a track of who's been involved in that. I know that's James Bostock, that's Joe Glass off onto the left hand, onto the side of the screen, the man on your focus at the moment. It's all been flipped on its head. And that is a huge incident between so many people. It's impossible to see who actually was at fault for causing that. What that has meant, though, is that Stanley Jr., Shane Cotton and Richard Flutie have massively benefited from that. They are up to 4th, 5th and 6th, respectively, gaining 16, 14 and 15 places, respectively, as well. So they have been massive beneficiaries. Off the back end of that one, Harry Fox is trying to make the move on Richard Flutie. You can see him there going up the inside into the Melbourne Loop, going to get himself up into 6th place. By the end of lap 1, that feels almost Senna-esque at Donington back in, what was it, 82 or 86 like that? Can't remember what it was, but fantastic start from your Pro Championship champion-elect. Aaron Kirby is up into 8th place. Alex Fretwell's dropped a position. He's down to 9th. And Tom Wilson making a few up into P10 as well, with Richard Flutie apparently gaining 10 positions. Well, I'm not entirely sure. In fact, no, that is correct. Sorry, my apologies. I'm just trying to figure out whether this is all right or not. But it looks like it is. Now, interestingly, right, okay then, I might need to get my abacus back out again, because I'm looking at this, Ash. Marcus Richardson, 20th on the track at the moment. James Bostock, you can just see at the bottom of your timing tower, P25. Now, if I go and take my thoughts to my scoring screen, that is a change of points of 6. You couldn't make this up, could you? This is going to put them level on points, and it would, I would assume, I don't know the rules, I'm assuming it would go to a count back in terms of how many wins they've got. So that is, I mean, obviously there's going to be plenty of other action to keep an eye on, but everyone watching, keep your eyes on Marcus Richardson and James Bostock. As it stands, count back as James Bostock's been spun round. In fact, that's Sarakadesla, sorry, he's been spun round. Apologies, wrong teammate there. Sarakadesla does get spun. That's going to promote both of those guys up a position. In fact, no, it's not. It's only going to promote James up a position because Sarakadesla was behind Richardson at the time. So Richardson stays 20th, Bostock goes up into 24th. At the moment, Bostock's going to win the championship. I don't think I've ever done maths this quickly, Ash, and I'm struggling. Please say something, because I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, so it looks like there's quite a few drivers that have profited from the incident at the start. Some not quite so much. Some have lost quite a lot of positions. Actually, James is one of them that seems to have lost some time at the start. We don't have any clue why Marcus basically looked like he didn't start at the start of the race. Even when they were gridding up, he was losing positions on the timing screen. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there. But yeah, these guys will be trying to gain as many positions as they can, try and get closer to each other to make sure that they can secure their positions in the championship, try and get that win.
100% as it stands. Marcus Richardson up into 18th place. James Bostock 21st. So at the moment, it's still heading the way of the GP2 driver, the number 66 car. Sorry, I was always going to contact there between them. I don't know how that's happened there. That was like a massive bit of netcode for Bostock. He's gone wide as well. He's lost the back end of the car. He's back down into 24th place. Marcus Richardson up to 7th. So again, changes. Swings to the way of Richardson now. Richardson champion-elect for the AM class at the top of the grid. Joe Willoughby still leads the way by 4 seconds to Scott Kostrick. So, it looks like there's been some change up at the top there. Of course, it was Philip McConaughey, sorry, who was right up at the top end there, along with Mark Proctor. So they've lost some positions up there as well. Harry Fox is up into P3 now, incredibly. So somehow he seems to be imperiously quick and incredibly lucky to avoid the incidents that sometimes tend to unfold in these reverse grid races. Further down, we've got Aaron Kirby looking to make a move on Stanley Jr. for 7th place as they go through the foggy S's. He's got Dan Wareham close for company in behind him as well. And I'm looking round there at the moment. So Marcus Richardson, again, this is my AM Championship check-in. 17th place is Marcus Richardson. James Bostock 27th. So it's very much in the hands of Richardson at the moment. There needs to be a big swing in the favour of James Bostock for that to change. As we see Dan Wareham's trying to go around the outside. He's managed to get Kirby through the Melbourne Loop. Is he going to try and get Goddard's for Junior as well? He's going to go right round the outside. That is a fantastic move from Dan Wareham to get that done. Brilliant work from the number 173 car to get that move done. And now Aaron Kirby's going to get the inside of Stanley Jr. into Redgate. He is nice and easy for him there. It looked like Stanley Jr. didn't really put up much of a fight there, Ash. But let's take a moment to appreciate the move from Dan Wareham. The outside of Goddard's, that is impressive.
Yeah, it was a lovely move. I think Stanley Jr. there, maybe just knowing that these guys are at the sharp end, or as Dan just goes off track. So yeah, I think Stanley might just know that these two guys are fighting for second in the championship. So he's just sort of said, you know what, you guys can fight it out. I'm happy with picking up quite a decent amount of points, as he's gained quite a ton. Yeah, Stanley Jr. gained 11 positions on in this race. So I think he'll be happy with the position anyway. So yeah, I think he's just let these guys carry on and fight for what could be the second in the championship.
Well, 100%. It's very close as it stands. Of course, Dan Wareham sitting behind Aaron in the championship at the moment. I'll see if we can find that one as well. Bear with me while I go and find all of my results, because I do have them open on the screen in front of me, which is always helpful. As you can see, Dan just skipping through the foggy S's on that one. Now, he's a further 5 points behind Aaron. Going back to the results in the first race. I'm trying to do maths here and I'm struggling big time. Looking at the positions they've gained, so there was 1 position between them. So yeah, in fact, there's 2 positions between them. Sorry, so that's a 10-point swing, a little bit more than that. So it's all to play for there as well. But Dan's going to have to get a few more positions, between himself and Aaron to potentially take that second place in the championship. Meanwhile, further down the grid, in 16th place is Marcus Richardson. He's got Neil Rocks, James Baxter, James Howells, James Pallow, Gary Linton, and everyone basically in front of him, it feels like, and I can't tell who's who and what positions they're in because they are all over each other going into Redgate. That is Howells in the background. He is the 3rd car on your screen there. You can just see him going through Redgate. There's a little bit of contact there between them. Baxter gets shifted out wide, a little bit of elbows out there, and that's a change of position. Howells has managed to get himself from 13th to 11th in the space of the exit of Redgate. Yes, you heard that correctly, for the exit of a corner, which is rather impressive, to say the least. Marcus Richardson sits in P15 now. James Pallow's lost a position. Mark Proctor's on the back end of this as well. This has almost become effectively an amalgamation of about 7 cars, and I am here for it. I am loving this action so far. I'm so pleased that we are less than halfway into this final race.
Yeah, definitely. It's like so the racing's been brilliant tonight. Apart from a couple of incidents at the start of this race, it's been generally pretty good. But yeah, some really close battles on track tonight, and it's absolutely fantastic to see.
Absolutely, you can see them. Look at them side by side going down Starkey Straight. Neil Rocks is trying to get the move done on James Baxter. He's going to be on the outside into the foggy S's. He's not going to get that move done. Sensibly just sits in behind. Marcus Richardson's going to have a really good run off him off the S's though, and down towards the Melbourne Loop. Is he going to try and make a move? He's not going to be close enough, is he? He's going to the inside only. A Daredevil would make a move that late, surely. and just essentially, just sits behind, pushes Rocks a little bit wide, manages to get up the inside. He's almost pushed that move to happen. Incredibly for Marcus Richardson there. Is he going to get the move into the outside at Goddard's? It'd be very difficult to do, but we've seen it done already by Dan Wareham so far this evening. But it looks like, he's just going to have to sit in behind. Tries the cutback. Again, though, Ash, that's going to mean he's on the outside going into Redgate. Not necessarily planning this too well, but at the moment, he doesn't need to worry because he has got 7 positions on Bostock, 6 now, because he's just got past Andy Weston up into 21st. But that still means it's advantage. Richardson's car's off in the background of smoke as we come out of the exit of Redgate. That's David Smith, who's losing a position or losing a few positions. Drops down there. Not sure whether he lost that on his own accord or whether he's lost the car entirely. But importantly for him, or importantly for Marcus Richardson, sorry, Ash, that's another position back between himself and James.
Yeah, definitely. James is down in 21st place, as we can see on the screen about now. He's got quite a bit of space in front and behind him. He's got a good 5.2 seconds to Johnson in front, and then a further 7 seconds to Stephen Parker Hamilton. So he's got quite a bit of time to he's got quite a bit of time to catch up in front to make some of them places back.
100%, he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to try and get his hands back on that AM Championship trophy. Come the end of this evening, Dan Wareham is putting Shane Cotton under a bit of pressure. Shane Cotton, of course, gaining 14 positions off the start of this one, and he might lose one of these now. It might be down to that 13 game because he's got Dan Wareham all across the outside of him going into Goddard's. He's done one move around the outside. Will he try another? It looks like he's going to go for the cutback instead, as he very well covered there by Cotton. But interestingly, Wareham's got a very good run, it looks like, off onto the main straight, off down towards Redgate for another time. And it looks like he's potentially going to get the move done. Is he going to try and get up the inside there into Redgate? He's just going to get covered off there. Is there going to be contact? No, there isn't. So close between them. You could barely light a touch paper between these two cars at this moment in time. Neil Rocks has dropped down a position as well by the looks of that. I think he's just dropped into the pit lane. And so as James House is going to promote a lot of people up there. Marcus Richardson's off. Richardson is off and into the wall. David Smith. James Bostock comes past him. This is huge for the AM Class Championship. He's getting a little bit of a nudge, interestingly, from, I think that is James Howells as well, for company, for good measure, as they're onto the start-finish straight. That is massive for the championship, Ash. That completely changes the complexion of this one. But Bostock looked like he was down and out just a mere 30 seconds before. It's gone completely the other way, and Marcus Richardson now is on the chopping block. He is potentially about to lose what was almost his championship to win.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not quite sure what's happened now. I'm just going to have a look on the event screen, see if we can find some footage of it. If you give me a second, I'll see if we can find something. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what happens. But that changes the championship drastically for Marcus. He'll be absolutely gutted.
Absolutely, yeah. 15th is Bostock now, and Richardson down in 26th, as you can see on your screen. So massive shame for him to potentially lose that on something so unfortunate for him. I'd say we'll see if we can grab you the replay for that one to see what potentially might have caused that, whether it was something of his own affliction or whether he was involved in something. You can just see, unfortunately, from the replay, it looks like he's already off, but there's no one really near him, which is interesting. So I don't know whether that is because is it because he has lost it on his own? Obviously, we saw, I think it was James Howells who was in near there as well. But can't quite see Gary Linton. David Smith, it was involved, I should say, rather than that. We'll see whether we can catch a proper glimpse of it in a second. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like we will, which is a shame. But it looks to me, if we can get it at the end of the race, we'll do what we can to see if we can get a bit of context on that one. But it looks like David Smith and Richardson involved in that one. David Smith not coming off anywhere nearly as badly as the 44 car. He now sits down in 26th with Smith up in 20th. Meanwhile, further up the order, Aaron Kirby has managed to follow Dan Wareham through. He's got past Shane Cotton as well, because what would have been perfect for Wareham would have been to get the move done on Cotton like he did, Kirby sitting behind him, and then he would have just been able to take the position off of Tom Wilson, you would think, and he would have got himself up into what I believe, if my mental arithmetic serves me correctly, would have potentially been a second place in the championship. on the points basis. At the moment, though, Kirby is doing his damnedest to keep right on the tail of the 173 car and is doing that very well indeed. He doesn't really, Ash, need to stay near him, or need to stay anywhere near him. He really just needs to stay within a car or two of him at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. He's doing a perfect job, just making sure that he keeps him in touch and distant, keeps him honest, if he ever makes a mistake. But also he's getting the moves done quickly on a car that Dan gets past. So got past Shane. Aaron did a good job of getting past him pretty quickly to stay within touching distance. Try not to lose too much position, as these guys look like they're quicker than Shane at the moment. These guys, Dan will now be trying to catch Scott, and so he can maybe get past Tom. You might see some maybe team orders. Maybe if he gets past Tom and Tom can push Aaron back, maybe get him to lose some time to Dan and maybe put a car or two between them.
Absolutely. Lots can happen in the next 5 minutes. One thing that cannot happen, though, it looks like, is Marcus Richardson potentially taking the championship win. He is in the pit. He will not be returning, it looks like, from this one. So he is very much out of the running in this race. James Bostock currently running P14 and looks like he is the AM champion elect for this one. I'm sure James will feel a little bit, I wouldn't say guilty, but maybe a little bit hollow, because that was a battle that was fantastic for this last round, and for it to be finished by something involving one driver unfortunately ending out this race in the pit lane, that's not what you want to see. But it's a tough one, isn't it? Because part of you thinks, oh, it's a shame that it's ended that way, but the part of you's probably sat there like, get in, like, I've just won a championship, this is great. It's a tough balance.
Yeah, it'll be strange because I'm sure he would have wanted to do it where he could have beat him outright on track, which he has, but obviously the incident that Marcus was involved in, we're still not quite sure what's happened, but that's painted the result of the championship. Obviously, there's been other races in the series, so they'll both probably look back on things that could have gone better for them earlier in the season. But it all comes down to this race really. They were close enough to get above each other, so he'll be disappointed. Will Marcus? James might even be a bit relieved that he can sort of just make sure he finishes. He doesn't want to get involved in something that pushes him all the way back. But we don't have damage in here, so he should be able to finish the race, and that should be enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Shame though, I've just seen him pop something in the Discord. Apparently he was hit during the formation lap, and as a result it made him invisible. So I'm reading. I'm not sure how much that is correct or not. Obviously, I'm not saying that he wouldn't say that is correct. I'm sure it will be, but very strange indeed if that was the case. And ultimately that's ended in a bit of a demise for him. In some unrelated and perhaps to most of you unsurprising news, you might notice at the top of the timing chart, Harry Fox has resumed normal order. He has taken the lead once more in this one. He has got himself past Joe Willoughby and up into P1. That is not Joe Willoughby behind him. That, I believe, is Joe Willoughby just going through the Fogarty S's. Tom Wilson at the moment is sitting at P3. Dan Wareham is a second or so behind him. But importantly, where Dan is concerned, Aaron Kirby is the one car directly behind him. So at the moment, it looks like it is going to be Harry Fox. I mean, we knew it was Harry Fox who would take the Pro Class win. It wasn't possible for him to lose that with only 90 points on offer in total if he won both races this evening. So Harry had won that going into this evening's eventualities. Tom Wilson, like I say, third place. Dan Wareham just behind. But importantly, as I said before, Aaron Kirby, one position behind them. So as it stands, second place will go to Aaron Kirby and third place will go to Dan Wareham, assuming that there's no changes based on any protests after this one. But I think anything that does, I don't think will impact these guys. It looked like it, Ash, that realistically, the incident that happened at the start, I mean, it looked like it included everyone, to be completely honest, for one. But as well as that, it didn't feel like anyone in particular kind of forced the issue to really need a protest, do you think?
No, I mean we missed the main part of it, so we're not quite sure what actually caused the incident. Obviously, there was a lot of people caught up in it afterwards, with cars sort of being sideways on the track. But yeah, like you say, I think it's just unfortunate that there was a few cars sort of sideways on the track, and it's resulted in a lot of people collecting them. But from the championship point of view, obviously it's a good thing that that neither Dan or Aaron or any of the guys that are challenging for that second in the pro have been looked to have been affected by it. They all seem to get through it clean enough. Obviously, we're not quite sure how it affected James and Marcus's rates. Maybe if they did get held up in that a little bit, it might have changed the result today. But no, well, I don't think it's affected too much. But I'm sure we'll see in the guys chatting about it after the race.
Absolutely. Now you can see Dan Wareham has got past Tom Wilson, so that means at the moment Dan Wareham is second in class, so he'll take 40 points for this one because of course Joe Willoughby being in the AM class, he'll be pretty much penciled in to take the AM class victory. Dan Wareham will get 36 points for this one. Aaron Kirby P5 in the pro class, he will take 33. P4 in the pro class, sorry. He'll take 33. That's not enough as it stands. He needs realistically, he needs Kostrick and Stanley Jr. to get past Aaron Kirby for Wareham to take second place. So it looks to me like it is pretty much all said and done on that side, but still plenty to look forward to. And bear in mind, the gaps between them as well. Tom Wilson's got to do the ultimate Ministry of Defence job to push Kirby back in towards Kostrick and Stan Jr. because they were 8 and 14 seconds. So sorry, they're 22 seconds behind Kirby at the moment between them. So plenty of work to do. It's all down both Wareham and Wilson going very wide as they went through McLean's there. As they've got a few more further down the field. Alex Fretwell and James Baxter and Stanley Jr. coming through the old hairpin for what will be the final time, because you can see Harry Fox is on to the final lap of this one. We have gone past the magic 20-minute marks. This will be, unfortunately for everyone, the final lap of this Tanso Racing GR86 season. Plenty of change has happened throughout here. Of course, Harry Fox, though, is going to be the big winner for this one. He is coming round to finish off his race, finish off his season in the perfect way possible. I'm sure we'll get the chance to see him potentially cross. I think, in fact, he will. There you go. He crosses the line. Harry Fox will take the victory here. Double wins for him. Perfect way to start off the season. Joe Willoughby will take a fantastic performance, take an AM class victory and a second overall, only losing the one position off the start. Fantastic work from him. Dan Wareham will come through in third. Tom Wilson fourth. Aaron Kirby comes through in fifth place. That means he will cement his second place in the Pro Championship. Scott Kostrick will come through for a very solid sixth place, despite losing a few positions off the start. Alex Fretwell, Stanley Jr., James Baxter, and Stephen Parker Hamilton will round out your top 10. Junior and Baxter gaining 12 and 18 positions respectively. Fantastic showing from those two. And as we round out through the back end of the grid, we've got James Pallow in 11th, Shane Cotton in 12th. James Bostock will take his AM class victory. Well deserved from him in the end. He needed to make it work and he needed to put the effort in, and he did in the end, losing 4 positions at the start, but ultimately taking that championship in the end. Steve Derrick comes through in P16, Philip McConaughey 17th, Stuart Brierley and John Johnston 18th and 19th, and Jack Wyborn rounding out the top 20. The last of your running cars are Adrian Hadfield, Hussein Sarakadesla, and James Howells rounds out the last of the running cars in 23rd. The non-finishers of Gary Linton, Andy West, Neil Rocks, Marcus Richardson, of course, Joe Glass, Richard Flutie, and Sean Clark round out the 30 drivers who have been on the grid this evening. Goodness me, Ash. I mean, it kind of fizzled out a little bit towards the end, which is a shame, but I felt like it was always going to be difficult to match that first, 8 or 9 minutes of that race, because the changes and the jeopardy involved in that was exceptional, wasn't it? I mean, where do you start with that?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. There was so much to keep track of with the championship and stuff like that. I mean, I'm gutted for Marcus that he's like we say, we don't know whether it's an incident that he's caused, or I hope it wasn't, or even worse, that it's no fault of his own. So I'm a bit gutted that we didn't see that pan out how it possibly could have. We could have had a bit of an exciting race between him and James maybe. I'm not quite sure. I think did both the cars need cars in between to change that position? Did it need to be a big swing, or could they have fighted it out head to head?
So between James and Marcus, yeah, there had to be a few points between them. I think it ultimately depended on where they finished on in their class. So I think if they'd finished towards the top, I think it was one position. The further down they got, obviously, the more positions Marcus needed between them. So it was always going to be a tough one, of course, with Marcus starting behind James on the grid, obviously because of the reverse grid in the first race. And look, like I say, there was points where I genuinely thought it was going to happen. Unfortunately, didn't, of course, but I mean, take nothing away. Fantastic racing from both of those, and fantastic racing across the field. We saw that one incident towards the start, which was a bit of a shame. But like I say, look, we can't say what happened because we didn't see the start of it. And I think if we tried to find it, I think it would be difficult because there's so many involved. But other than that, like the racing this evening, it epitomises the quality you get at the end of the championship because it was just brilliant. Like everyone putting it out there, absolutely going for it. A little bit of bumping and nudging here and there, but generally speaking, the racing tonight was exceptional.
Yeah, it was really good tonight. A lot of the racing was really respectful, some nice clean moves. Donington's a bit. Donington's actually not a bad sized track for these cars. It's reasonably wide. You can sort of get um, at least 3 cars wide easily enough round here. I mean, it's not the widest in the world. It's not sort of Paul Ricard or something like that, But uh, yeah, there's a reasonable amount of space for this size of car, so that obviously helps with the the incidents, um, which was a bit different to Oran Park. Oran Park's a bit very tight and twisty, and it's a very narrow track, so that's to be expected. Oran Park sort of breeds incidents, but yeah, it was really nice to see some close, clean racing tonight, and some great battles up and down the field.
100%. I couldn't have put it better myself. Ash, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It has been a fantastic way to end the season. Fantastic to see just a brilliant set of racing from this one. Like I say, fantastic end to the reason. It really typifies how good the quality of racing is. It's a shame we won't be here to broadcast season 3. Make sure you jump into the Tanso Discord if you haven't done already, because you can go and check out who's going to be broadcasting the third season. I believe that has been confirmed, but make sure you're in there so you can get a chance to even be on the grid as well, because there's plenty of space, I believe, to go on there as well. But on behalf of myself, David Ressel, and Ash Coupland managing the broadcast somehow alongside me this evening with all of the action that we managed to keep abreast of, thank you very much for watching to all of those who have tuned in. Make sure you come back and see us the Thursday after next for the next round of the Positive Perception GT Championship, of course, back on ACC. But between now and then, have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys again.